All right, Tom Trento with another special segment of our show. You ready for this, Susie?
I'm ready for it, Tom.
You're my Jewish friend for many
Yeah,
years. We
many
we
years.
got a serious Christian with us today.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Can't
I
wait for
know.
him to join
I
us.
know the Jews and Christians have been coming together now for many years, and it's just an amazing work of God. Sean Feucht, you're with us today. Tom Trento, your host with Susie Gold. You are all over the place, man. You were in our area, West Palm Beach, not too long ago. You're a missionary, an evangelist, amazing work. But you have a campaign, Hold the Line, to mobilize Christians to understand their civic and biblical responsibility and to get out the vote. What is that all about?
Yeah, so earlier this year, I did the unthinkable and ran as a conservative in California.
Unbelievable.
And and really a big part of the reason that I wanted to run was to get the church engaged. And if you look at the numbers in California or even just across America, evangelical Christians, they're not voting. And the church is not showing up. I think it's less than 40% of registered evangelicals will vote in a presidential election. And so we just saw these numbers. You see the way California is going. I have 4 kids. I'm greatly, uh, um, I guess, greatly moved and sobered with the reality of what society is going to look like as they grow up. And so, I wanted to do more than pray and more than do rallies, which I've done. I wanted to take a step up and actually become a candidate. So what Hold the Line has become is essentially the momentum that we've created during the campaign. We're just really continuing it on, trying to engage millennials, trying to engage the church, trying to get people to wake up. Um, and so far it's been a lot of fun.
Sean, you come out of a music background. You're a phenomenal singer. You've got 10 million albums, or how many albums now have you done?
A lot of albums.
A
I don't know,
lot of albums,
probably 20 something.
20 albums, books. You sing to very large thousands and thousands of people. What can you point to that moment where you said, I gotta get more involved in the culture, and can you from there have an admonition to Christians who maybe right now are looking at Donald Trump, and obviously the Republican Party is the party that's best reflecting biblical principles, but sometimes Christians see Donald Trump as an obstacle to their faith, and they can't bring themselves to vote. How have you managed all that, and what's your admonition to those Christians?
Well, I think I we had the incredible opportunity several months ago to actually. It was actually right after I ran. It was totally a God thing. We were invited, a group of us, a group of musicians, creatives. We were invited to the White House, and we got to go to the White House. We spent time with Mike Pence, with Ivanka, with several cabinet members, and then we got invited into the Oval Office, and we got to hear firsthand the heart from the president, the vice president. We got to understand the things the administration was doing for believers, and not even just for Christians, but people of all faiths across America and the world. And, there's a hostility that is growing. We experience it out here in California intensely. And the virus and the lockdowns only increased it. If anything, it exposed agendas that were already there. So there's a growing hostility towards believers and people of faith. And we were actually able to see the proof of what the administration has done to take a stand against, really against bigotry, against discrimination, against all of these laws and legislation to silence our faith. And I think we were all just really blown away. I think what's difficult is Christians have to navigate the minefield of the media, which absolutely hates this president, which absolutely hates the values, any kind of traditional values of the way America was founded. There's a desire for an uprooting of all of that, and so really, I tell believers, I'm like, listen, like you have to tune into the word of God. You have to pray. You have to get the mind of Christ because you're not going to find the narrative of what God is doing in our nation or in our generation by watching the news.
So, Sean, I have a question for you then, and we impress this upon what you're saying to our listeners every day, and it's great to hear it from you as well. Exciting that you were in the Oval Office in the White House, but what is it what message do you have to our listeners, to the 1,000,001 Christians that we are trying to reach out to vote wisely? Understand that Trump is the president, the choice candidate, because of that he represents us, because he represents our ideals, he represents our values. So what message can you send to the 1,000,001 Christians and also to the Jews that are listening to our show every day?
Well, first of all, I mean, I could talk about the Jewish people. I mean, spent over a dozen trips to Israel. I have deep ties to that nation. I love Israel. I love the Jewish people, and as you know, as Christians, our faith compels us to love the Jewish people. I mean, it's a big deal, and so to me, there's not even a choice. I mean, if you see the positions that Trump has taken, I don't see how you can follow the Jewish faith and not love what is happening, with his administration, what they've done to the, I guess, 1,000,001 Christians out there. I mean, we have to think policy and platform over personality. And, I mean, Trump is a brawler. He is a tough pill for some people to swallow. He's a fighter. He's gnarly. I mean, he just, he's has a personality. He's a real estate guy. He's just been a fighter his whole life. He's a New York guy. But we got to look at policies and platform. Those are the things we need to look at. And we have to look past the Twitter rhetoric and all that stuff. We have to look at the actual policy and platform. And to me, it's just a no-brainer. I mean, if you educate yourself and you look at the economics, you look at what's happening with the borders and they're going after human trafficking. If you look at the life issue with abortion, if you look at, I mean, whatever issue you look at, I could point at a million of them. I mean, those are no-brainers to me. And, I feel, another issue I want to throw in there too is religious liberties. I mean, if you look at the things that the Biden campaign, the Biden-Harris campaign on the left, and what's happening with the erosion of religious liberties, I mean, we got to have somebody that's going to fight against that. We're here in California. The governor of our state told the church, you cannot sing. I mean, he actually released legislation telling the church in California, insane. You can't sing. And the saddest part to me is that people are complying with it.
You have to put your mask on. You have to put your mask on to sing.
I
right?
think he also
no, not even just put your mask on. Like
No
you
singing.
can't sing in church.
Didn't he also say wear a mask when you eat? Just put it on back on in between bites.
Yeah, he's
well, let's talk
guy.
about. There's a lot to talk to you about, but California.
Are you allowed to breathe?
Are
you allowed to breathe out there?
Breathe. Not if you're a Christian. California is a phenomenal state. It's a beautiful state. It's got natural beauty, but it's got a crazy government. But it used to be somewhat conservative and a lot of serious Christians. Give us a feel for what's going on with Donald Trump in California. Is there going to be a significant number of people voting for Trump, or is this a lost cause?
I mean, I think that there's an angst out here. I think that there's an angst. I want to say 3,000 to 4,000 people are fleeing the state every day. It's a disaster. We have rolling blackouts. We had 2 last week that shut our power off. Try to live life in the dark with 4 kids. It's like it's actually kind of mind-boggling how the government here wants to prioritize banning vehicles that, unless by, I think it's 2030, they want to ban all vehicles unless they're electric, but yet they can't even keep our electricity on. Like, I mean, it's those kind of things, like we need to ban plastic straws, but we can pass out needles to, we want taxpayer money to pass out needles. You can't get your ears pierced if you're a 15-year-old girl unless you have a parent with you. But yet the state can actually do sex changes on 12-year-olds without parental consent. I could go, don't get me started. I could go on and on and on. But, the reason why I feel like God has us here is because we got to fight. And, the saying goes, so goes California, so goes the nation. And if we all leave, and keep in mind, this may be a scary stat to some of you, but 1 in 5.6 Americans are Californians.
I don't like that number. I mean, what is that all about?
That's a scary number.
So you can't just say, well, forget California. It just doesn't work like that. Not only that,
40 million people. Yeah.
Not only that, you got to see that, that California has an incredible history of revival. Amazing moves of God have taken place in this state. And so, what we're experiencing with, our gatherings, let us worship, what we're seeing God do on the streets, under bridges, on beaches, it's representative of the angst that people are feeling in this state. They want to come together. They want to have church. They don't want to have, hypocritical, godless government officials dictating when and how they can practice their faith. And I think there's going to be some big things that come out of this state in the coming years.
All right. Well, a couple of the guys here have some questions for you. This is going a little longer than we anticipated, but it's great. We'll make a complete show out of this thing. So, Mark, you had a question for Sean.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Let's say Jesus came back down today for the second time or first time, whichever way you want to look at it. And he said, they gave him a ballot and they said, okay, Jesus, you got to vote for one of these guys in the White House to go in the White House. Who would he pick and why?
Well, people always say, who's, Jesus this, Jesus that. And I tell them, well, Jesus isn't on the ballot. So good luck with that. Right. I think that, I really believe that the core issue, I think I'm going to just take one issue. I believe that this election is not a referendum on Trump's, rhetoric or character or Joe Biden's. I believe this election is a referendum on, will Americans agree with thou shalt not kill? Like, this is a referendum. This is a dividing line in the sand. It's like, will you, you have the most pro choice abortion up until the very last day, even beyond, right? In the left, this is what's happening. And then you have Trump, who is by far the most pro-life. It's not even close. It's not even close how pro-life he is. And so, to me, I just take that one issue, and I think that Americans, especially believers, we have to ask ourselves, where do we stand on that famous line from the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill? And I believe this election is a big part of that.
That's exactly
I don't know if that answers it, but
that's exactly what Franklin Graham said on the show here yesterday.
You asked, not to get political, he said that, but so you're thinking Jesus would vote yes for Trump?
Jesus is going to vote for Trump. Franklin Graham, we interviewed him yesterday, and his folks had said, he can't take a position and all of that. We said, yeah, fine. So I asked them a question, how would you advise Christians to vote? And I thought he'd say biblical values, all that. He goes, you got to vote pro-life. You got to vote pro-life. Biden's a nutcase. He's so pro-abortion. He went off on Biden, and he basically said the same thing you just said, Franklin Graham, and
one more question.
That is the issue. It's been an issue, obviously, in our lives for
your face was on a billboard on I-95 going down the street, and you had a one tagline thing to say to get Christians out to vote, what would you say on the billboard?
I would say, think about the future. I think that one of the strongest cases I think can be made for the president is what just took place last week with Amy Coney Barrett. I think that we have to think about, again, past the rhetoric, past the, tweets in the middle of the night, we have to think about the Supreme Court. We have to think about, well, did he do what he said he would do? 3 justices, potentially a 4th if he gets a second term. And that's going to shift the legacy of what takes place in his term more than, people won't even probably remember him. But, she's so young. Amy's so young that she'll be in there when my kids have their children.
Yep.
And she'll be making decisions. And I think that we have to think legacy we have to think about legacy. We have to think about the future of our kids. And that's really what motivated me to run. That's what motivates me to engage. I am gravely concerned about the future of the next generation.
Good answer, because we're designing a billboard right now. That may work.
So think about the future.
One last area.
I love it. Think about the future.
No, I could see it. It makes sense. Vote Trump. It makes sense. You mentioned you've been to Israel many times. We lead tours to Israel each year, and we have an American Israeli in here with us, Jewish person back there, Jewish person here. Your kids' names are all Jewish names. What's your relationship with Israel? Tell us about that.
Yeah, we got all the prophets covered with my kids. Don't you worry.
Not Muhammad.
Beautiful names.
Yeah, I just love all those biblical characters. I mean, I love I love what they represent. I think it's, they're prophetic for what God wants to do in their generation. Malachi, Ezra, Zion. We were actually able to dedicate and bring Zion to Zion, which was really cool.
Oh, that's
it was a
cool.
really,
That's
really
great.
cool experience. And he is the wildest kid out of all of them. I mean, and I always tell my wife, I'm like, babe, we called him Zion. Like,
what do you expect?
What he is, he doesn't have a tame bone in his body. No, I just love those names. Again, we love the Jewish people. We love Israel, and we stand with Israel, and we're so grateful every time that we get to go and really receive from that historic land.
Beautiful. All right. Any closing questions?
Oh, it was
for
great.
Sean?
This was great, actually. I think we don't want to take more of your time, although we could, like Tom said, we could do a whole show just with you. There's so much to talk about. But I thank you so much for coming on and joining us.
How could we help
God
you,
bless
Sean?
you guys.
What could we do to help you?
Is that Monte Cristo's behind you?
Yes, it is. We got good ones.
All right.
Ooh,
Send us
come
an
on.
address.
I'll send you my address.
All right.
Come on down to
You
Florida.
got
You
it.
do as much as you want.
We like Sean already. All right. You drive safely.
And we're going to send
All
you a
right, bless
billboard.
you guys.
We're going to send you a billboard.
Take it easy.
Yeah, God
All
bless
right,
you.
send it to me. All
Bye-bye.
right, see ya.
Bye-bye now.